Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Frugal Granny, or Ali as you can call me. I'm a 64-and-a-half-year-old pre-retiree. I'm intending to retire early at the end of June, and I won't be getting my state pension for 2 years. So I've started this channel to document my run up to retirement, how I'm trying to adjust my spending and my budgeting to cope with the low income afterwards. So far I've talked a little bit about how I allocate my current salary to sinking funds, and then in my last video I took a little bit more of an in-depth look at how I allocate the money in the utilities account sinking fund to various utilities. And I'd like to thank you all very much for your comments. It's been really helpful, and it's helped me to take a more critical look at some of the things I'm spending my money on and how I can tweak my budget. Now, one comment in particular I would like to address today was a little bit of a confusion by someone, basically because I got my numbers muddled up. What I said was that I put £500 a month into my utilities sinking fund, and I have been doing for a number of years. And the thing that I find incredible about that is that when I started putting the money into the utility sinking fund, I was still married. We were a family of 6, but now my son and I are living on the same amount of money that 6 of us were living on a couple of decades ago. And that's how prices have changed. It's quite incredible, actually. Besides putting 500 in my utility sinking fund, I put £400 a month in a savings account. And I mentioned in the last video that that savings account at the moment is going towards paying off the last renovation project on my house, which will start at the end of May. And in actual fact, if you listen carefully, you can probably hear the contractor planing and sanding wood in the background. He's currently working 2 houses up, and in a few weeks' time the scaffolding on that house will come down, go up at my house, and there'll be lots of sanding, and I'm going to have to find somewhere else to record. But what the comment was from the viewer was, if I've been putting £400 a month in a savings account for a very long time, and I think the viewer got that muddled up with the utilities account, then good question, why wasn't I putting that money into stocks and shares, because I would get a much better return? I will be quite honest about stocks and shares. I am very risk averse. I have invested in a stocks and shares ISA in the distant past, and I cashed that in to put the deposit down on our first house. Since then, I've not invested in stocks and shares at all, mainly because I haven't had the money to. And what I need to explain, or would like to explain in this video, is that the money that I put aside every month into my personal savings is actually allocated to the annual renovation project on my house. So, you know, if I'm putting £400 a month into a savings account, then that's probably about £4,800 worth of renovation works on my house every year. And I've been here, what, 8, 9, 10 years? Oh golly, don't say I've spent £48,000 on this house. I honestly don't think I have. It's been much less in the past, but the amount has stepped up recently, because I've known that I'm coming up to retirement, that there are various things left on the renovation list, and I need to get them done. And of course, you know, since the pandemic, the cost of building materials and labour has escalated. So something that would cost about £4,000 or £5,000 now probably would have cost 2 or 3 before. I mean, a good example of that are my wood burning stoves. When I first moved into this house, which is a 1890s Victorian terraced house, brick built, there was a lovely fireplace in the front room, but it was totally unusable. And I agonised for a year about committing, you know, architectural terrorism almost by taking this fireplace out. Well, eventually I did, because we were so cold the first winter. So I had the fireplace taken out, the wall, you know, the chimney breast was replastered, and I had a wood burning stove put in. Now, when I had that done, I think including the wood burning stove, I think we were talking about 2,500 to 3,000. When I repeated the same procedure in the back room after the pandemic, it was 4,000, 4,500. So you can see that prices have leapt over the last decade. And so I don't honestly think I've spent £48,000 on this house. And I have got all the receipts and everything. They're all in a file, you know, in case I ever need to sell the house and I can say, this is what I've done to it while I've been here. I have no intention of going into that file and adding it up, because I think it will be very depressing and it wouldn't really achieve much, quite frankly, because I'm absolutely thrilled with what I've got done on this house. I've made it my own. I've put my own stamp on it. I've repaired it. I've improved it. And to me, that's all that's mattered. It's been a decade-long project that's now coming to a close. So what I want to explain about the £400 a month is that many banks now do these monthly savings account, which have a much higher interest if you put a regular amount or up to a regular amount in every month for a year, and then you will get the enhanced interest at the end of the year. Now, the thing to remember about those accounts is you're probably not going to get much more return on your money than if you invested the final savings amount right at the beginning of the year at the normal going rate of interest, say, what, 3.5%. The 6.25 or 6% over the course of the year evens out in the long run at maybe around about 3.5. But what it means is, if you haven't got the whole initial, say, 4,800 to invest at the beginning of month 1, by the time you've got to the end of month 12, the interest is the same as if you had. So that's what I've been doing. Every year I've been trying to put into one of these high interest monthly savers a regular 3-figure sum, so that when I get round to the summer and the account matures, I've got the money there to pay the contractor, or whichever contractor it is, for doing the next renovation project on my house. And the reason I don't do these projects myself is A, I haven't got the time, I haven't got the skills, and I've been working 1 or 2 jobs and freelancing on the side. So it has been better for me to get people in, especially as this is an old house, who know what they're doing. So what have I had done on this money pit? Well, I've gone back through my project management tracker. Are you not surprised that I've got one of those for this house? And had a look at what I've done in each room of the house and on the exterior and in the garden as a whole. So again, if you just bear with me looking off to the side every now and then, I will tell you from my list what I have done. Well, when I first moved in, I really had every intention of starting at the top of the house myself and painting my way down and out of the front door. And it soon became very evident with a 9-to-5 job that I really wasn't going to be able to do this. Now, thankfully, we've got a sort of small ads community at the place where I work, and people advertise services. And a lovely lady in another department said her partner was looking for work. He was a sign writer or a coach painter. I mean, he paints things like the Orient Express. He was a very, very talented chap. But he was looking for some work, and I said, hey, you want to start at the top of my house and paint your way out of my front door? You're very welcome. So he came and he started in my son's bedroom on the top floor, and he literally painted his way all the way down and out of the front door. So that was the bedroom and washroom and study landing on the top floor, down the stairs, then the first floor landing. He didn't do my room at the front because I needed wallpaper stripping, and I said just leave that. They did the second bedroom at the back, the bathroom, the stairs, the landing and hallway. He did the kitchen and the kitchen extension, the back room, and again I said please don't do the sitting room because that had horrible yellow wallpaper on it which needed to come down. So he did that, and that took 6 weeks. There was an awful lot to do, and during that time he kept my son company and they had some amazing conversations, and I was just really grateful that he had an older male person around to talk to at that time, because that was quite a difficult time in my life and in his, and it was great that he had that guy there to talk to. So at the same time, when I first moved in, I had other key things done. I had all of the sash windows restrung and serviced, because I wanted to make sure that they would open and close. That's for ventilation and for safety reasons. If you needed to get out in a hurry, I wanted to know that the windows would open. So that cost me about £1,000 a window, I think. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 sash windows that, no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sash windows that open. It was about £500 a window. Yeah, I was a little bit surprised how much it cost, but they did an amazing job. And I needed to get that done before I had the window frames painted. Otherwise that would have been pointless, painting the windows just to wreck them by having the windows serviced. So I had that done. I also had thermostats put on every single radiator in the house so that I could control the temperature in each room, because where I live it does get very cold, and in winter you don't want to be heating an unused space if you don't need to. And because the fireplace in the front room wasn't working, I needed to be able to keep that room warmer, obviously, than say the spare room that we weren't using. Excuse me, I've got a little bit of an infection. It's the joys of working on a checkout. People give you all sorts of free gifts, including bugs. So then what did I do? Again, another major thing before I started doing smaller things, I had the floor in the back room stripped and sanded and sealed. So that's all pine boards, and that looks so lovely that my son said to me, oh mum, can I have my room done too? So the same guy came back and did his room up on the second floor, but that also involved some floorboard repairs, but they did a really good job. I think it was about £500 a room, but it was well worth it. And they were fantastic. They did an amazing job. Then I had the spare bedroom recarpeted. That carpet was awful. And I had the bathroom lino replaced. I've got something that looks like pine flooring, but it's not. It's vinyl. So that was done. And the sitting, oh no, I didn't have the sitting room carpet done at that time. I waited until the decorating and the fireplace was done. So the second summer, when I had the front room wood stove put in, once that was done, I had another chap through the small ads come, and he stripped the wallpaper off this room and the room below, and he repapered this room. I put up the faux bricks at the back. You can see it's just wallpaper, it's not bricks. And then downstairs, it was all repapered in a Hessian texture wallpaper and then painted. And then once that was done, I had a carpet put down. So that was the first 2 years. I also had bespoke Venetian blinds made for the back room and the bathroom. So they match, you know, when you're looking at both rooms from the landing, the windows match, and also from the outside. Excuse me, please. And then outside, I had the side back fence replaced with a 6-foot fence just for some privacy, and a bespoke door made for the wash house, which was rotting. That door was rotting, and the fence included a bespoke gate with locks. I just needed the back of my house to be safe. At that time I had 2 small dogs, and I wanted to know that they were not going to run down the side tunnel onto the street and get lost or worse. Yeah, and then I had the wash house roof reslated. They took all the slates off the wash house roof, repaired the rotten beams, refelted it and reslated it, put a new gutter up. So the whole of the outside there was done. Subsequently, in subsequent years, I had all of the back windows replaced with UPVC units that looked like Victorian sash windows but weren't. So basically I won't ever need to do any repainting at the back because the extension makes it very hard to put up a scaffolding. So all I need to do now is just get the UPVC frames cleaned maybe once a year. And so that's the back of the house all done. I mean, I have had to have the lock replaced on the back door and a sealed unit replaced in the back door window. But that's just ongoing wear and tear, really. So let's see what else I had to do. Oh my goodness, yes. I had to have the back of the house, the mortaring dug out and redone. And that was an awful thing. It's a dusty job anyway, but the contractor sent a mate round who he'd hired for a favour, and when I found out about this afterwards I was livid because I thought I was actually hiring the contractor, not his mate down the road who needed a job. And anyway, he ground the mortar out with an angle grinder, but of course he never thought to seal up the vents into my kitchen. So my son rang me at work one day to say, "Mum, the kitchen is literally full of brick dust. You cannot see your hand in front of your face." I said, "Shut the door, come out of there immediately, do not go in." It took me a week to get that. I think I must have cleaned the whole kitchen from top to bottom 3 or 4 times. It was awful. I mean, honestly, and I was past being angry. And the guy sent round his proper apprentice after that and everything was fine, but I really was very unhappy. So just be careful when you hire someone. I always say now, look, I don't want your apprentice, and if your apprentice is coming, you've got to be here too, because I've had so many mess ups with contractors just sending the apprentice because they think, oh, it doesn't matter, it's just a small job, the apprentice can practice on that. Well, I'm not here to be practiced on. I just need my the things that I need doing properly. Okay, so what else did we do? Oh yes, I had the tiles on the kitchen splashback replaced. Well, partially I did that. I took them off when I was working at home during the pandemic. I couldn't bear to look at them any longer. They were a sort of 1970s tan colour that didn't go with the rest of the kitchen, and I thought, no. So I just took them all off and we lived with bare plaster for a few months, and then I found someone who was on Instagram who seemed to be doing a good job, and that's when I had somebody's apprentice come round. And I really wanted a professional to do the job because I was worried I couldn't get the tiles to sit properly around the power outlets, and I thought if I get someone in who knows what they're doing, it'll be okay. Well, honestly, if I'd known he was sending the apprentice, I would have done it myself, because in the end I had to get an electrician to come and adjust the power outlets so that the covers wouldn't fall off. That's exactly what I was worried would happen, and it happened, but I didn't do it. But the tiles are lovely. I'm really, really pleased with them. But again, a lesson learnt. I had upstairs in the attic, I had to have the sealed units of the skylights replaced. That's 3 Velux window sealed units replaced, which was an interesting exercise, watching them take those things out of the roof and change the glass and put them back again. And I had the shower room up there completely gutted and refitted because water had been coming through the corner of the back bedroom from the sink above. I don't think there was a leak. I think it was just little overflows and splashes were running down the outside of the downpipe and puddling and then coming through the floor. And I just wanted the whole of that top floor to be waterproof, because at some point when my son maybe moves out, I might rent that top floor out, and I just need to know that it's lodger proof. So that was done. Yeah. Then downstairs in the back room, I discovered that we'd got damp coming in through one corner. That happened when I had a new neighbour after my neighbour died. My old neighbour died, and a new couple moved in who are lovely. And he found that he'd got damp in the back left of his house, which is the back right of mine. So the guy who came to do the sealing of the wood, the brickwork, and the putting in a membrane and plastering, he came round and did my side too. So that was an unexpected £600, but it needed to be done. What else? Oh, I've also had to replace the oven, the dishwasher, the extractor hood, and the washing machine. And as you've probably gathered along the way, I've gathered 4 freezers. Last 2 summers ago, I had the gutters on my bay windows replaced with replica wooden Victorian gutters. I didn't want black plastic things. I wanted to keep the look of the house, so that was not cheap. But again, an apprentice disaster. He left the elbow of the gutter blocked, which caused damp to come into my front room. He also accidentally knocked down the side wall between my house and my neighbour's, and that didn't end terribly happily either. But eventually I got another company to come and replace the top gutters along my roof with a seamless aluminium gutter. And while they were here, they cleared the elbow out of the bay window. And then last summer, after the bedroom wall had dried out, I redecorated that. I painted it with damp-proof paint, and then the same paint to match the walls. So sometimes things never really go quite the way you want them to. And then there's the surprise incidents. I had quite a hassle getting some tiles replaced on the kitchen extension after a falcon got into a mobbing attack with some crows, and the scuffle dislodged and broke about 3 or 4 tiles on my roof. They literally had a fight on my roof. It was quite a thing to witness, actually. We wondered what on earth the crows were doing, and then suddenly there was this big kerfuffle on the roof, and this massive bird of prey flew down and swept across the garden and up round the houses opposite me and was gone. And after that, my neighbour said, "Do you realise you've got a few cracked tiles on your extension?" I said, "No, I didn't." And then we ended up having to get those mended. Then this January, I've had what I would call the chimney stack repair fiasco. The chimney stacks are now repaired and reinforced, both of them, but they didn't clean up after themselves, so I've now got mortar in one of my back gutters, which I'm hoping the next contractor will be able to just get out quickly, because he's got some tall ladders and should be able to reach. I've still not really quite forgiven myself for being pressurised into getting that done quicker than I would have liked. And then the other things that I've had to do, which were like last on my before I retire list, were 2 replacement sofas and a rug in the front room. I've just noticed on my list here as well that I replaced all the lighting in the kitchen and the back room. I got those fixtures from John Lewis. They were reduced to less than half price because the boxes were damaged, and I got some beautiful brushed stainless steel industrial looking lighting for next to nothing, and I had an electrician round to put those in. So what else? What's left? I'm having new glass put in the front door. They're coming on Monday, which is super exciting. So now my nasty 1970s glass in my front door is going to look a lot more in keeping with the age of the house. I'm having a Victorian design sandblasted into the glass, and then they're replacing it. I had an estimate to have the front door replaced with proper stained glass, and that was going to be £5,000, and I just thought, I really can't afford that. I mean, in an ideal world I would have leapt at it, but I don't live in an ideal world, so I'm having something that I feel is as craftsman-like as I can afford without looking naff. Excuse the word naff, but I'm sure you know what I mean. And then the guy from a few doors up is moving the scaffolding down at the end of May. stripping down all of the woodwork at the front of the house to the bare wood, which won't have seen the light of day since the late 1800s. He's cutting out any rotten wood, replacing that, and then it's going to get primed, undercoated and painted properly, and that includes the front door, which is why the glass has got to be done first. And then once that's done, really that's it. I've always said that once that was done, the house would just decompose genteelly around me over the next 10, 15, 20 years. I still would like to replace the fridge freezer in the kitchen, and I have a funny feeling I may need to replace the boiler at some point, so I need to set up saving funds for those once the literal dust has settled after these main renovation tasks. I need to see what I can do about putting money aside for those things. The other thing I was putting money aside for that got siphoned off into the disastrous chimney repair was the money I was putting aside to replace my car. So I'm going to have to start thinking seriously about working towards rebuilding that money at some point. So when people say to me, well, you've been putting a 3-figure sum aside for many years into a personal savings account, why didn't you invest it on the stock market? That is why, because it never sat in my savings account for longer than 12 months because it was being built up for the next project. And then over the winter, I would freelance as a translator and a proofreader in the evenings, save up my money, and then there would be another project the next summer. So thank you very much for the advice to invest in the stock market, but I really just haven't been in a position to do that. I'm amazed that I've actually been able to do what I have done. So anyway, I'm not sure if there's going to be any more questions about the sinking funds. So hopefully we can leave sinking funds now and move on to something else. I'm hoping that this week I might get the valuation for the last of my workplace pensions, and also it's going to be that time of the year soon when I've got to start getting my paperwork together to do my tax return. So there's going to be plenty of things to talk about. But thank you for stopping by. If you've got any more questions or comments, please put them below. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. So thank you for dropping by. Bye bye now.